Hello, philanthropy fans. Your colleague Yvonne Trask has asked me to talk a little bit about exit strategies. Now, by exit strategies, we generally mean one of two things. One is, how do you know when to stop a funding relationship? And the second is, once you've decided to stop a funding relationship, how do you do this in a way that is graceful and constructive? There are some who say that you shouldn't fund an organization for more than 3 years, others who say you shouldn't fund an organization for more than 5 years, but really setting a time limit to your funding just doesn't make any sense. If you're funding an organization through a particular grant-making program with specific goals, and the organization in question is making progress toward those goals, and generally it's doing good work, why would you stop funding the organization? Let's take a concrete example. Suppose your goal is to make Auckland a carbon-neutral city by the year 2025. You put out a request for proposals, and as a result, you end up funding, let's say, 10 organizations that are going to help you meet that goal. Suppose one of these organizations does good public policy work. Another organization might be especially good at doing public education campaigns. Suppose you find that after a period of time, you're funding the same public policy organization year after year after year, and you wonder whether this is a good thing. Well, if that organization is doing good work and it's helping you to make progress toward your goal of making Auckland a carbon neutral city by 2025, why would you stop funding the organization? So really the short answer is this. If an organization is underperforming now, and if your efforts to help that organization perform better are yielding little effect, you should stop funding the organization right away. But if an organization is generally helping you to make progress toward your goals, and if it's generally doing good work, it really doesn't make sense to stop funding that organization until you've met your goals. In neither case should you put an artificially short time limit on your funding. You should keep funding until you get to where you want to go. There might be some exceptions to this rule. Suppose that your goal is to fund a very broad swath of organizations working in a particular area to let 1,000 flowers bloom so that these organizations can compete with one another for donor dollars, with the idea that the organization that's best will be the one that's most competitive for those donor dollars, and the fittest will survive. The only problem with this is that this strategy is probably flawed, or in my experience it has been flawed. What you find instead is that the competition for donor dollars through some kind of donor selection is very different and generally has a very different effect from natural selection in the natural world. And you can't expect that really the best or the fittest will survive in the world of NGOs. If you really think about it, the most important aspect of an exit strategy is being clear about your goals, especially knowing how you will know that you've met your goals. Because once you know that, all questions about exit strategies are subsumed under the question of, well, have you or have you not met your goals? Once you've decided that you're going to put an end to a funding relationship, there are several very well-established ways that you can do this gracefully and in the most constructive manner possible. The first of these is to communicate clearly with your grantees. Let your grantees know what your intentions are, and this gives your grantees time to prepare for your withdrawal of funding. The second way is to be a little more proactive, to actually help your grantees replace the funding that you're withdrawing from them. And you can do this any number of ways. You might, for example, introduce another donor to this particular grantee. Or you might make a special grant to this grantee to help build its fundraising capacity, right? You might make an extra capacity building grant. Or alternatively, you might make a challenge grant to this grantee to help it build its operational reserves. In any one of these cases, you'll be doing a favor to your grantees, being a good steward of funds, and also being a responsible funder. In no case, however, would I recommend ever cutting your grantees off at the knees by withdrawing funding suddenly and without notice. Now, some funders choose to diminish their support for a grantee over a set period of time, say 3 to 5 years, in order to give that grantee time to adjust to this withdrawal funding and to find new funding sources. I think that's a very nice thing to do and a very responsible thing to do as a grant maker. So there it is. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts with you.